Hello, my name is Monique, and I'm the author of An Understanding Beyond, which can be found on Amazon. Now that we're approaching Christmas, I want to talk about the origins of Christmas first of all. The Bible has no specific date for Jesus' birth. There have only been estimations of around when that took place. I have a little more information on that soon. The Catholic Church chose December 25th to Christianize and replace pagan celebrations. And they were probably hoping to stamp out the worship of false gods. So they did this to appeal to non-Christians and pagans who celebrated winter solstice because it's the beginning, Christmas is the beginning of longer days of sun, and they would worship the birth of the unconquered sun and the casting away of winter. This was a popular Roman holiday. This is actually strange to me because in the Chicagoland area, Christmas is like the beginning of the worst winter weather, with January and February coming up. But the sun is actually gradually getting shining on us a little bit longer each day from Christmas date on. Now, Christ's birth was probably around Passover in spring, and a big clue for this is that shepherds were in the fields at night, and as it says that the shepherds came and saw where Jesus was born. And I recently learned that all sheep have their babies, lambs, around the same season, around the same close together in springtime. So the shepherds were in the fields at night so that they could watch them 24 hours a day in case they were giving birth to their young. Scholars believe that Jesus was probably born, most of them think that he was probably born between 4 and 6 BC, while others estimate 1 to 3 BC. Now, it's strange because he was born before himself if his birth marked the beginning of the 1st century, but because it's difficult to pin a date of Jesus' birth, with the records in history that we have available that are over 2,000 years old, there were different times when there were censuses, and those were more frequent probably than we realize. So it's hard to say which one was the one that Mary and Joseph went to Jerusalem for, to Bethlehem for. So, it's hard because these records that are available, they're over 2,000 years old at this point. But there are, however, many non-religious records of Christ's existence and his mission. So that should be our focus instead of, if, some of these historians and, these people that are scholars of everything back then, they, rather than quibbling about when this exactly took place, we need to focus on what Jesus did for us instead and not worry about those other details, really. It could mean that there was a possible delay before they finally decided to base all dates on the earth on Christ's birth, with BC being before Christ and AD for, this is a Latin term, Anno Domini, and that means in the year of our Lord, for years after Jesus' birth. There's actually, I was kind of surprised to see that there has been opposition from scientists stating that BC and AC should be changed to BCE, which means before Common Era, and CE, Common Era. This argument has raged for centuries. This is the first I've heard about it recently. Actually, if this would prevail, that would be another victory for the forces working against God that are trying to pretend he never happened, basically, or if he did, that he wasn't the Son of God or whatever. There's all this doubt that gets thrown at people. And it would be another victory because it's already been removed from schools and government entirely. Well, private schools still teach, about God and Jesus, but there's been a lot of suppression of the truth, which is, of course, the evil one working against God any way he can. Observations of Christmas vary from different countries and societies, and not the whole world doesn't even necessarily, tribes and such, I don't know what they worship. I mean, there's even voodoo, which is completely the opposite too. But in Germany, for example, from my own childhood experience, they tell children that the Christ child comes and brings the gifts on Christmas Eve. And Santa is leaving candy in your slippers that you leave underneath your bed when you wake up on December 6th, which is actually the date of St. Nicholas's death. So that's how they, recognize him, I suppose. Now, Saint Nick is Santa is quite another story. Saint Nicholas, 4th century Greek monk or bishop from Miran, which is now modern-day Turkey, was born in 280 AD. He traveled the country helping the sick and the poor. While doing this, he gave away quite a bit of inherited health, all of it as a matter of fact, that he had to help people. He was known for his generosity and secret gifts, for his piety and kindness, and he was the subject of many legends. When we talk about secret gifts, one best known is that he saved 3 poor family sisters from being sold into slavery or prostitution. We're talking about people that are trying to survive, and they're extremely poor, and if a woman didn't have a dowry, then it was difficult to find a husband, because the husband would have to completely support her for the rest of her life. So Saint Nick provided a dowry needed for marrying, and so that they could marry. Uh, it's said that he put gold pieces in a sock and slipped it into their windows secretly, without expecting any credit for it or anything. And he's known for a variety of miracles, many miracles. One story is that he resurrected 3 youths that had been murdered and pickled in a barrel by an innkeeper. So this innkeeper had killed them and put them in a barrel, and Saint Nick brought them back to life again. Amazing, but these kind of things used to happen back in Jesus's day too, where Jesus brought people back to life, and he himself came back to life. So on a brighter note, I want to talk about Santa's image and how that came about. There was an artist called Thomas Nast that is responsible for how we picture Santa in today's times. Over the years, he was a cartoonist and actually he was for political subjects, and he also was sent into battles to draw what was going on there. I guess back then they didn't have any cameras or anything. And he was not just a cartoonist. He's responsible for the image of Uncle Sam, for one thing. The elephant in politics. I don't know if he also designed the donkey also. I'm not sure about that one, but I remember that the elephant for sure. And he, over the years, had many different depictions of what he thought Santa would look like. But that evolved into Santa's image when he drew a depiction of Santa for a Coca-Cola advertisement. That's how we got our image of Santa as we think of him today, with a white bearded and with a red suit. This is not really actually so weird, because Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was something Montgomery Ward's developed for their advertising. They invented Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it's funny how artists were the source of many characters and ideas in history. In my own personal experience of at least 25 years of commercial art career, I once worked in an ad agency with Ernie, who actually created Ernie the Elf for Keebler. So finally, I want to stress the importance of making worshiping God and going to church at Christmas, because this is really the main reason that we're celebrating it in the first place. But we're usually so busy with secular distractions, cards, trees, decorations, gifts, and holiday dinners. But let's not forget that Jesus is the reason for the season. That this is the observation of his birth and what he did for us, regardless of when that actually happened. We don't need to get hung up on that. We know that it happened. We just don't know exactly when. So, it's too far back. There's many different accounts and estimations by people. We get so stressed out and, rushing around to accomplish everything that we're trying to get done for Christmas. And when you really think about it, these are all secular things that, in a lot of ways, humans just made up. And, we put this on ourselves, that we have these traditions that we follow from the past, and it's really actually all unnecessary. It's one thing if you're giving to the poor and the needy. That's what St. Nicholas did. Now, that makes sense, especially, in spiritual holidays, special times when some people are very lonely and they actually get very depressed around Christmas because they don't have anybody. This is the kind of stuff that would be better to be there for them or help them somehow, if you can figure out what, how that would come about. But, there are people that spend thousands of dollars for Christmas. I mean, the kid has to have an iPhone that costs $600 or $800, and it's gotten so completely out of hand. Some people, they charge everything, and they spend the whole year paying for all of it, and then the next Christmas they do it all over again. So that's really crazy. But they're creating a lot of debt for themselves in any case, even if it isn't thousands, but which they're complicating their lives and making their life so much harder and stressful. What's really more important? What people think of us or what God thinks of us? We should be more thinking about what our behavior is, love for other people. Things that are not material things should be the main part of Christmas. Kindness, things like that. Charity, things like that. And in spite of it, even though a lot of it's secular, a lot of it's actually based on pagan rituals from the past that caught on to the general public even, like Christmas trees, for example. I still, in spite of it, we've had it ingrained in us all our lives to observe Christmas the way we're used to. And I still do as much as I can to give and prepare. Old habits are hard to break. People fall into patterns. But God and Jesus, don't make them last on your list. My priority is to always go to church on Christmas. Some people are like, oh, I gotta make dinner, we gotta open gifts, we don't have time to go to church. It's the main thing. It's the main thing. So, different churches have different mass times. Various churches, you can fit in going we can fit in going, if it means anything to us. Then you can schedule in such a way that it's doable. There's easy access online or phones. If there's no modern devices, just an old-fashioned phone call to the church a few days before, while you can still get a hold of somebody to find out when the services are. I mean, this is something, even if a person's much older and they can't do computers or any of the technical stuff on the phones, there's a will, there's a way, basically. I can understand if a person is stranded or physically unable, say they're incarcerated, whatever, in a nursing home. There are those exceptions when you really don't have the transportation or the legs to go to a church. But then, at least a prayer then. A sincere prayer. Because there are no valid excuses for ignoring God on this holy and glorious occasion. It's so important. I just made, in writing this took me a whole day. And I still have to, Christmas just in a couple of days, and I still have all kinds of stuff I have to do. But I made this my priority to get this message across. It's so important to have a relationship with God and Jesus. If we want to spend eternity in heaven with Him someday, it's totally available to us. All we have to do is let God know that that's what we want, that we want this with Him. If you have, let me put it this way. God has feelings just like we do, right? What would you do with friends and family? What would you think of them if you never hear from them? And when you do hear from them, it's only because they want or need something. Otherwise, they don't care to spend any time with you or talk to you. Basically, they don't care. I mean, that's what they're showing you when they never show up. Wouldn't you resent that or be offended by that? The same goes for God. Because in that sense, He's like us. In closing, let's be sensitive to Him because He loves us. I love Him also. So I want to show Him that. If we don't, then we're totally missing out. I'm hoping that people can have a meaningful Christmas. In that, I mean that we know what it's about, and it's not about how many gifts we can get, or anything like that. It's really about God and Jesus being born. Let's not ever forget that. So I hope that we have a Merry Christmas and that God blesses the people that recognize Him and love Him. Again, my name is Monique Musial, and I'm the author of An Understanding Beyond. You can find my podcasts by just typing in my name, Monique Musial, because there are a lot of podcasts out there called Understanding God. So this is a more specific way of finding my podcasts. Thank you for listening today, and God bless.